My dad passed away a few weeks ago, and in the middle of the chaos, I ended up with his parrot, Kevin. It wasn't just any parrot. Kevin and my dad were practically one. The way they interacted was almost freaky. Kevin seemed to understand everything my dad said, and he was always there for him. I didn't get it completely, but I accepted the bird. It seemed like a way to hold on to some part of my dad. Little did I know, this would turn out to be a terrible idea. That night, I was trying to get some sleep after a long day, but I just couldn't. Kevin was making a fucking racket. He was squawking loudly and flapping around in his cage like he was doing some insane dance. I thought, what the hell is wrong with this bird? I tried to cover my head with a pillow and ignore it, but the noise was relentless. I was so damn tired that it was a struggle to get out of bed, but my curiosity got the best of me. I went into the kitchen to see what was going on, and Kevin was still going nuts, making the biggest fuss. I had no idea what was happening. I checked the pantry, and my heart almost jumped out of my chest. There was a guy, a real fucking vagrant, rummaging through my stuff and stuffing food into a backpack. He looked like he hadn't showered in weeks, and he was filling up his bag with everything he could grab. I have no clue how he didn't hear me coming. I yelled at him, but he saw me and immediately tried to bolt. He was so clumsy that he tripped over some boxes and fell to the floor. It was pretty damn easy to restrain him. It was the weirdest thing ever, this guy, all tied up with whatever I could find, while Kevin was still making a goddamn scene. After getting the intruder tied up and calling the cops, I looked over at Kevin, who had finally calmed down. He was back to his usual self, making a few odd noises here and there. What hit me was that Kevin's crazy behavior, which had seemed like just a loud disturbance at first, actually helped me catch the intruder before things got worse. The cops took the guy away, and I was left alone with Kevin. The parrot went back to his routine, and the house fell into an uneasy quiet. What struck me was that, in his own bizarre way, Kevin had protected me. The night had ended, and it was just me and Kevin, trying to return to some semblance of normal. In a weird, unexpected way, the parrot had saved me from something a lot worse. I was left trying to wrap my head around how the hell that all just happened. So, that was it. The night was over, and Kevin and I were left with a strange new reality. My dad's parrot had played a role in the weirdest way possible, and I was only beginning to grasp what that meant. My buddy Mark and I had this habit of exploring abandoned places. Don't ask me why. It's just one of those things we do to spice up life, I guess. That night, we decided to check out an abandoned resort in New York that we'd heard about. The place had been closed for years, and the stories about it ranged from, it was the site of a big party, to ghost stories. To be honest, I was more interested in seeing the place than any ghost tales. We arrived around midnight. The entrance was pretty wrecked, with broken doors and windows covered by boards. The place looked straight out of a horror movie, and the feeling of unease set in the moment I stepped inside. Mark was pumped, as usual, while I was trying to keep my fear in check. We went in through the main door and started exploring. The silence was deafening, broken only by our footsteps. We used flashlights to navigate, and the atmosphere felt heavy, like it was waiting for something. After wandering the dusty hallways for a few minutes, Mark suggested we check out the bathroom in the back. I had a bad feeling, but I went along because that's just what we do. The bathroom was a mess, with dirt all over the floor and chipped tiles. Then I noticed some strange red marks on the walls. They looked like bloodstains, but I figured they were probably just old paint or something. Still, the marks gave me the creeps. Mark was so engrossed in checking them out that he didn't notice my growing discomfort. While Mark was inspecting the red marks, I started hearing a noise. It was a low, faint sound, like someone was moving something or stepping lightly around. I grabbed the walkie-talkie and tried to reach Mark, but the communication was all static. His voice sounded weird, like he was in a hurry and anxious. "Did you hear that?" I asked, trying to stay calm. Mark nodded and started looking around, clearly uneasy. The noise continued coming from the back of the bathroom. I decided to check it out and left Mark in the hallway, who was starting to look really nervous. When I went back into the bathroom, the noise suddenly stopped. My flashlight started flickering, and the air smelled strange, like something had changed in the atmosphere. I started to feel like we were being watched, but I tried to rationalize what I was feeling. The sense of discomfort didn't go away, and I couldn't pinpoint the source of the noise. Mark was getting more and more agitated, and then things took a turn for the worse. Mark started talking on the walkie-talkie with a panicked voice, saying he was seeing something strange near him. I didn't know what to make of it, and the tension between us was sky-high. I decided to leave the bathroom and find Mark. As I left, the hallway seemed darker and scarier than before. Mark was practically in a panic on the walkie-talkie, saying something was moving around him. His words were jumbled and the communication was a mess. I ran back into the hallway and tried to find him. When we finally met up, we decided it was time to get the hell out of there. The relief we felt when we finally left the resort was immense. We ran to the car, not daring to look back, and the feeling of being followed was undeniable. Our adrenaline was through the roof, and our minds were racing with unanswered questions. Only when we were safely in the car did we realize what really happened. We looked back at the resort and saw shadows moving through the broken windows. We didn't know what it was, but the feeling that something was watching us stuck around. What we really encountered that night remains a mystery, and the red marks and strange noises are something we'll never fully understand. That night was pretty quiet, except for the sound of my typewriter as I struggled to finish a school essay. The basement of our house always had this eerie vibe, with flickering fluorescent lights and a chill that seemed to seep through the walls. It was one of those nights when you feel that something isn't right, even if you can't quite put your finger on it. Timmy, my younger brother, was supposed to be at swim practice. I'd heard my mom's car leave a few hours ago. So, when I started hearing a voice calling my name, the last thing I thought was that it could be Timmy. The voice was a bit muffled, like it was coming from far away, but it was clearly audible, calling for me with an urgent tone. At first, I thought I was imagining things. But the voice kept coming, more insistent, making me uneasy. It didn't make sense for Timmy to be home now, and hearing him call for me was making me nervous. I had no idea what to do. Timmy shouldn't be here. My mind raced, trying to come up with explanations, but none made sense. With every call, my heart pounded harder, and a feeling of dread spread over me. I decided to head upstairs to see what was going on. I couldn't ignore the feeling that something was seriously wrong, but I didn't understand what or why. I climbed the stairs with a mix of fear and irritation, each step echoing in the silence of the house. My head was spinning, trying to figure out what was happening. When I reached the top, the front door was slightly ajar, and I could hear soft talking coming from the entrance. My anticipation and fear were overwhelming. When I walked into the living room, what I saw was both a relief and a mystery. There were my dad and Timmy walking in through the front door, as if nothing had happened. My dad looked at me with a strange expression, a mix of surprise and confusion. Timmy was right beside him, looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. Confusion took over me. The voice I heard wasn't Timmy's. I looked at my dad and Timmy, trying to read something from their behavior, but they seemed as surprised to see me as I was to see them. My dad, unsure of what to say, tried to mask the awkwardness with a neutral expression, but the tension in the air was palpable. Timmy just stared at me, wide-eyed, as if he was trying to figure out what was going on. After they came in, the feeling of unease didn't go away. I sat in the living room, trying to make sense of what had happened. What was that voice? Was it a hallucination, or was something really going on? The situation felt out of place, and my mind couldn't calm down. I wondered if there was something I was missing. I tried to connect the dots, but each attempt only heightened my sense of disorientation. The house was eerily silent, as if everything normal had been distorted by something I couldn't pinpoint. Fear and anxiety mixed with the sense that I was losing control of the situation. There were no clear answers, just a persistent feeling that something was wrong. The night seemed to drag on, and I was stuck in a state of unease that wouldn't shake off. The fact that there was no conclusion, no understanding of what really happened, left a deep mark on me. The feeling that something wasn't right, that there was a missing piece in the puzzle, left me with a constant, nagging fear. The night dragged on, and I could only hope that the feeling of panic would eventually fade away.